prescribed generations. My grandmother has always taken care of herself. Looking beyond the orange medication bottles on the windowsill of the kitchen, the view of my grandparents' grove was marvelous every morning, sun shining off the shared pond that lived at the bottom of their land, shaded with trees. The overhead cabinet to the left of the sink housed all the vitamins she took: fish oil, vitamin B12, folic acid, apple cider vinegar gummies, and Flintstone vitamins for the grandchildren. She cooked 3 meals a day for herself and my grandfather, and they each had one drink at night on their back porch, labeling it happy hour like every other retired couple that lived near a lake. Before the sun came up in the mornings, they would walk around their neighborhood, and when her hips were her own, my Grammy used to ride a bicycle too. The house was always spotless with everything having a place. I had never seen trash laying anywhere but in the compactor. Maybe Grammy could be a bit over the top when it came to tidying up. She always seemed to have something to fuss over. My mother had me when she was 30. And even though she was more than ready to have kids, she was still unprepared. She freaked out when I didn't get my first tooth until I was 14 months old. Every time I was on a playground, she yelled at me to be careful and try to prevent any bumps and bruises before they happened. She read stories to me every night, and by the age of 3, I knew my states and capitals. My father was never as concerned as she was, and my mother was labeled as a worrywart, a helicopter parent, overprotective. It was a brand name that would stay with her forever. Suddenly her world revolved around the tiny human version of me that she loved every minute of it. I remember starting to feel funny in the 3rd grade. I was at recess, walking around the perimeter of the playground, balancing on the short fence that was supposed to keep wood chips off the grass, but kids like to kick them up and throw them at each other anyway. At first I felt a hollowness in my stomach, and then it slowly rolled up into my rib cage, catching right below my diaphragm. It was a different feeling than being scared, but it was similar in some ways too. I had no reason to be afraid, but I was breathless and felt a flutter in my chest like feathers tickling the interior of my lungs. Since I had a hard time explaining this feeling, I never brought it up to anyone except for the one time I told Grammy. She told me she experienced something similar, so I just assumed it was normal because she was so healthy. In 2020, Grammy cut no corners to make sure that her and my grandfather would never get sick. They wore multiple layers of masks from the time they walked out their front door until the time they walked back in it. My grandmother learned how to order curbside pickup when she got groceries home, and then she would soak them in bleach before they put them in the cabinets or the fridge. They no longer invited people over to socialize for happy hour, and their back porch became a ghost town. Grammy's kitchen cabinet became an arsenal of elderberry gummies and preventative medications. The cleanliness that I once thought was a desirable trait became an obsession, the isolation switching on something in Grammy that had laid dormant for decades. The years of her life that were supposed to be carefree soon became filled with fear. My mother was, and still very is, a hardworking woman. I get my drive and workaholism from her. What I did not get from her was her alcoholism. She could be the happiest person in the world one minute, and 2 sips of beer later turned into the most narcissistic, cold-hearted, unresponsive mother. At the time, I only thought about how her actions made me feel, and never what really drove her to be that way. What I didn't see was her fear of never being good enough, the gnawing anxiety that lived within her because she couldn't trust my cheating father, and the weight of being constantly passed up for positions she was qualified for because of her gender. She couldn't deal with these things head on, so she dove into the bottle instead. I was put on my first cocktail of antidepressants the winter of my junior year of high school. I remember that it was winter because the bitter weather and gray skies made everything feel so much worse. I laid in my bed, famished, stomach aching for food, but my brain telling my body would throw anything up that I tried to eat. I sat on the cold tile floor with my head in the toilet, retching even though my stomach was empty, and eventually passing out. The first medications did this to me, along with another and another and another, until I found something that at least quelled the urge to dig a pair of scissors into my upper thighs. My parents couldn't understand why it made me feel physically ill to leave the house, and unfortunately I didn't have the answers for them. 2 years into the pandemic, Grammy got put on antidepressants as well. She became so anxious that she too did not want to leave her house. Even after they camped in their car the day before their first vaccine, she still didn't feel safe. They canceled trips to Ruidoso and South Padre Island. Her depression made her memory deteriorate. She asked my grandfather the same questions over and over, but he doesn't get cross with her. Sometimes she doesn't remember what they ate hours earlier. I cried when I received the birthday card she sent me this year because it was absent of anything handwritten like she used to do. She tells me she's happy for me when I talk about doing better, but it hurts to witness her memories fading away. At least she knows I'm here for her no matter what. My mother had a failed suicide attempt in 2019 after my father told her he wanted a divorce. She sent my brother to stay the night with me at my apartment and prepared. She laid out by the pool, listening to music and drinking a few beers. She painted her nails and toes in the sunlight, By the time my father got home that night, he found her in the garage with the car running. She fought the paramedics the whole way out, begging with them to let her die. Grammy called me, and there was no hiding the pain in her voice. I wrote a 3-page letter to my mom while she was in the hospital about how I understood how she felt, that how badly it would suck if I no longer had a mom, and that she can't give in to this illness. She achieved 1 year sobriety in January. We have both been suffering in silence for too long. I'm so incredibly proud of the woman my mother has become, the person I turn to first when I need guidance and a helping hand. Without grief, we may never have known the relationship we know now. I still take my meds, and they work. From the outside looking in, one might see 3 generations of mentally ill women and think it's tragic. I think it's beautiful that we can all rise from the ashes, overcoming the thoughts that told us we weren't good enough, or that the world is an endlessly terrifying place. From my perspective, there are 2 strong women in my life that I have the honor of looking up to. We aren't alone in our struggles anymore. I am not alone anymore.